On tonight's episode of BZen TV, we're talking to Amber Griffin, an international model and the founder of Model Prep, a workshop that teaches women the importance of becoming the best version of yourself. We're here with Amber Griffin, the founder of Model Prep. She's an international model who now focuses on being a role model to younger women with her Camp for Girls. Amber, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
So let's start by talking about self-confidence, the main thing that your camp tries to teach other women and really impart to them.
You know, Model Prep, we help young girls build self-confidence through modeling techniques. And one of the main things the reasons that I started Model Prep was because I wanted to help these girls understand that they were much more beautiful inside than they were on the outside. You know, every year we get a bunch of girls that come in and they want to be models,
right,
and they think that's what it's all about. But then they go through the 6 days and they're like, this isn't really what it's all about. It's a lot more than that. You know, we teach them etiquette, which has nothing to do with modeling. But it's just something I think that young girls need to learn because it's just an important tool to have in your life.
100%. So as we talk about confidence, I think it's something that a lot of women struggle with, myself included. I think each of us, if we're being honest, we've all been through times in our lives where we've had to really work on that. So you and I were having a conversation earlier just about, you know, your experience growing up. Let's talk a little bit about that.
Well, you know, when I was growing up, I was awkward, I was tall, thin, and I was dark. So
all the things that make you beautiful, but when you're young, you're like, oh gosh, I'm weird.
Yeah,
right?
I didn't understand it. And actually, I was talking to my assistant about it earlier because she's absolutely gorgeous, and she was like, I got picked on too. You know, I just don't think people understand, you know, tallness. You know, that's one of the traits that I so enjoy having now. I wear heels in the jungle. I love my heels. All I wear is heels.
Dedication right there.
So if I can add a little bit more height, that's great. But you know, it's just one of those things where you don't understand, and you don't understand it until you're not in that situation anymore. You know, like if I would have stayed present in that moment, then I would have never grown into the person that I am today. You know,
and I think that that's what's most important, right? And that's what you're teaching young girls. It's growing into the person that you really are. And when we're young and when we're kind of trying to figure it out, we look more to the outside of ourselves and to what society tells us, and we're like, okay, that's what I have to be. I'm not good enough, right? And you talk a lot about comparison and how that was something that you struggled with and just feeling unworthy. Will you tell us a little bit about your feelings of unworthiness when you were younger?
I didn't get over that feeling until I was in my 20s. And that's weird because that's a long time.
And you know what? And you're not alone. Last week we had Dr. Courtney Baker on the show, who is a gender equality expert, and she said that even women in the C-suite at the top level of their careers, 80% of them struggle with self-confidence and imposter syndrome. I think it's something that all of us can relate to.
You know, it was one of those things where I personally felt like I was comparing myself to women that were like in the modeling industry. It's so competitive. You know,
it's crazy. It'll make you go crazy.
Yeah, I was one of those people where I would see a girl. We'd go on for the same job, and she's so skinny, and I'd be like, I have to go on Metabolife because that's what the big thing back then. You know, Metabolife. So I would go on Metabolife and I would diet and I wouldn't eat anything just so that I could have that body. And her, you know, I wanted that job. I wanted to get all the jobs in Italy. It was a lot. It was a lot of pressure. And it wasn't good for my body. You know,
so we harm ourselves for an illusion. Right? So let's hold that thought and we'll be right back with Amber after these messages. We're back with Amber, the founder of Model Prep, and we're talking about self-confidence. So Amber, in the industry that you have been in for so many years, modeling, you've probably faced a lot of rejection, right? A lot of just those things that don't work out, not based on who you are as a person, but just on the way that jobs are going. What advice do you have for young women who are facing rejection in their lives? How do you just really dig into your self-love and keep moving forward on your path?
Well, I mean, I started modeling when I was 18 years old. Like, I was so young and just getting out of high school and not really knowing who I was as a person. I think that my advice would be to that young girl that's going into this industry is always thick skin. You know, I've just heard a lot of things that were just so contradictory of like what I was taught from my parents.
And if you listen to everyone, whether you're a model or a doctor or a medical school or a journalist or a lawyer, if you listen to everybody, you're gonna go crazy.
Yeah.
Right?
But when I was going through that, I wasn't confident. Mm-hmm. You know, I was that little girl inside, you know.
I don't think confidence is really taught in the way that it's supposed to be taught to young women. You know, so unless you have someone, if you're lucky enough to have a mentor, you know, and if you don't have one, it's good to find one as soon as possible because it's not really taught.
Right.
We're looking outside for approval because that's how we're raised.
And if you're not confident in yourself, you'll hear that voice, or you'll hear that agent, or you'll hear that boyfriend, and they'll say, what?
Yep.
Oh, well, you know, I don't really like that color on you. Or, you know, I think you should get this or that or something different. And you're like, oh, I like this about myself. But you have... If that person is someone that you feel that you love, or you want that job,
you want them to like you, get that job, like you said.
Yes. Then guess what? You're going to change all those things.
Yeah. And then where does it stop?
Those things. Yeah.
And then when do we stop changing ourselves?
I got to be like in my 30s, and that is so crazy. But when I got it to be in my 30s, I got married, and my husband just loved everything about me. I could be like free, and I could just wear these crazy Kentucky Derby hats. And he didn't, he thought it was awesome. That's when I started loving myself. That's when I started to understand that I can live for me. I can be who I want to be. I can be anybody I want to be.
And if you're struggling with loving yourself, what's some advice that you have for our viewers? Anybody that's really struggling to find their own voice?
Well, my thing would be is to don't rush it. Just take it easy. Take the advice if it applies. But if it doesn't apply, it's kind of like chew the meat and spit out the bones.
Yeah.
Don't really apply it to your life if it doesn't apply. That would be my advice to the young girls that are struggling with confidence, because I chewed the meat and swallowed the bone. But I think
that's how we learn sometimes, right? It's like
I fall and get back up, dust myself off. But don't think that one mistake is going to define your whole life. One indiscretion or anything that you feel like, oh my God, people are going to look at me weird, or listen, you are you. Everybody makes mistakes. I don't know any person in this world that has not made one mistake in their life or more. I mean, we all make them every day. I know I do. I'm like, oh gosh, why did I say that?
I know, right? No, it happens. Me too. Like, it happens all the time. Just happened here with us like a little bit ago. And we do that, and if we don't have that self-compassion, we can really block our blessings and the person that we are here to be.
Yes.
Right? So we have to lean into our light so that we can also see it in other people.
Yes.
So we'll be right back with more confidence tips from Amber after these messages. So as you really start to know who you are and live your purpose, you can feel the difference, right? And we were talking about model prep and how much that feeds you, even more so than modeling did. So will you share a little bit about what you love about it?
I think it's, I see these girls for the very first time. They have no idea. Like, they see me in pictures and stuff, I'm sure their moms talk to them about, you're going to model prep this summer.
Right.
And so then I see them and I'm like, the joy and the hugs.
Oh.
You've met me just 2 seconds.
Yeah.
The genuine love that they have for me.
Sweet.
And the program makes me, there's no other feeling.
Just that unconditional love.
That unconditional
love. That
love.
outpouring of connection. You're like, wow.
Like, something that you've worked so hard on has come to life.
Oh.
And you're seeing it for the first time. You're seeing the parents, and you're seeing the parents come up to you. The parents are coming up to you and they're saying, thank you for what you've done for my child.
Wow. So speaking of some of the transformations that you've seen, what is one of the most impactful things that you've seen, or the ways that you've seen some of these young women change after just having someone really pay attention to them and tell them how beautiful they are.
Well, every year at the end of model prep, we have a fashion show. So it kind of gives the girls a chance to, strut their stuff and just present to their families and friends all the things that they've learned through the course of the 6 days.
Yeah.
And when I meet them during orientation, which is the very first day, I see shy. Mm-hmm. I see timid. I see slumped over. Mm-hmm. I see just not confident at all. Mm-hmm. And then that last day, you see them, and they are on that runway with their heads held high and picking the cutest outfit, and they are like with their head, and they're like with attitude.
Just loving it, yeah.
So I love to see that energy.
Yeah.
This year we had an urban police officer. Her daughter was a part of model prep, and her daughter was very shy.
Yeah.
And and she just was, when she got on that stage, she just was so lit with life. Mm. And her mom came up to me and said, "Thank you." Another parent, this was my first year doing model prep, and she said her daughter was getting bullied all the time, and she said model prep helped her be strong when those bullies came back to her. And I said, oh my God, I just know this program works. It works.
Yeah.
This is a blessing in these kids' lives.
Mm-hmm. And I think sometimes for little kids, you need to hear it from somebody other than your parents, that you're special, that you're beautiful, that you're worthy. And if you don't have anyone to tell you that, as a young woman, you're looking to the wrong things for approval sometimes. So I can imagine how much this program is impactful for a woman whose mind is still forming, whose self-esteem is still fragile. And it's wonderful that you're able to just come in and give them really what they need to boost themselves up.
Well, you know what? I'm just going to say, it's not just me. It's a team of people. But at the end of the day, what these instructors give to these kids, mm-hmm. they will never forget this. Mm-hmm. These parents want to teach their kids about proper etiquette, napkin placement, fork placement. But those girls, they want to know about runway. They want to know about pictures.
So give them a little bit of sugar with what they have to learn. Yes. Yeah.
So it's actually really fun. And I call it a beauty camp at this point because they're learning makeup. They're on the runway and they're, just strutting their stuff and pictures and mm-hmm. Just things that I never learned. I had to learn on my own.
Mm-hmm. And we were saying earlier that if you've learned certain things and you have a certain amount of knowledge, it's your responsibility really to pass it back mm-hmm. and to share it with people who are on the same path that you're on, right?
We have to pass that information. What good will it do us to keep it all inside? What good is it going to do me if I don't pass it on to mm-hmm. my younger generation so then they can pass it on and we can make the world a better place?
I love that. Okay, well, on that note, we're going to go to a commercial break and we'll be right back with more from Amber. So Amber, we were talking about confidence and the cattiness that sometimes we run into in our industries. So you have a really good trick for creating that collaboration instead of competition. Will you share that with our audience?
Social media obviously is huge. It's mm-hmm. one of the biggest tools that we have to, keep in contact with our peers, our family, and everyone wants to share their success. So when I see a peer of mine and they're doing absolutely amazing, however, it's something that I want,
right?
Like,
it happens to all of
vacation.
Us. To all of us, yes, exactly.
Those great hair extensions. Mm-hmm. No, I'm kidding.
That Bentley you were mentioning earlier.
That Bentley that I want. What I do is I compliment them. I leave a nice comment and I say, congratulations. And I genuinely mean it. And, I try to come from a good place. And if I feel that I'm not, then guess what? I wait a while.
Yeah.
Before I comment. But I'm going to do it that day. But I wait and then I comment. But I'm going to comment and I'm going to say congratulations because I know that they love to hear it from me.
Yes. And I love how even just hearing you say that, and we can all think of instances in our lives and we've experienced that, and it just feels different, right? When you compliment somebody or you notice something good about somebody else, whether they have a great dress or a cool car or they just got engaged or whatever, when you say it instead of holding it in, you're able to connect and give love and support them, and it just kind of diffuses that competitive nature, that all the negative stuff that keeps us from really connecting with each other as women.
But the older I get, the more I understand that everybody can't handle your success. Everybody can't handle that, you know, all those accomplishments, you know, they look at it and they go, oh, you know, why did she get it? It's like, oh, she's dressed nice. It goes a long way with it. You know, it's a lot of dynamics to getting older.
So let me ask you a question about that then. When you have experienced that, or friends have been jealous of your success, what do you think is the best way to handle that? Because I know that a lot of women struggle with that. When we run into that situation, you can tell a friend is being jealous or catty. What do you think people should do?
I think you should still be you. Just because they, you know, if you go to a party and they're at that party, honey, be nice. Hey, how you doing?
Such good advice.
You know, how have you been?
Don't let it pull you down into that cattiness, negativity,
because
gossip.
You don't know why. You don't know what they're going through. You don't know the surface of that energy. So what I would do, I'd still be me. And I just wouldn't let that person change who I was. Because in my life, and what I've learned about myself is that I've let too many people do that I will never
100%
let that happen again. It's kind of like,
I used to be like that too so much.
Yeah.
And I think I still struggle with it at times. It's just like when you feel like someone doesn't like you or they're judging you, I don't know, it does something to you. Right. And to just keep showing up as yourself, I think is like the strongest thing you can do.
Like the shell of you. I was telling this story to a friend of mine where I was dating this guy, and we were watching the Grammys or something, or the Emmys, I don't know. It was an award show. And Jessica Alba came on the set. And I was like, oh, well, you know, I guess I was strutting around, whatever. And he says to me, he goes, well, you still don't look better than her. You're 26 years old, 25, whatever, you're living in LA.
Hits you with that
and
age,
I'm like thinking to myself, like, well, darn it, I don't look better. You know, in my mindset at that time, I had no confidence. And I was so used to people telling me who I was. So when I got to be in my 30s, I started to say, I don't care what you think about me. I'm fabulous. You know?
I love it. Yes. Like, every single woman should feel the way. And if we did, this world would be a better place.
I don't care. I really don't care what anybody. I love me. And that's all that matters. I am so thankful I went through that season in my life. And I'm glad I'm out of it.
Yes.
But now I can teach girls how to be and how to get out of that season. Because we've all gone through it.
I love that you call it a season.
It is.
Because it's almost like, you know, like the leaves, they fall and then the tree regrows and all that. It's like 100%. I think we all go through that season. And the fact that you went through that and you are the woman that you are and such a leader and beautiful, I think that you did that because that's part of your purpose.
Right. So it's kind of like one of those things where we have to accept who we are at that moment and learn from that time in our lives, you know, because...
And forgive ourselves for the past.
We have to. If we can't forgive ourselves, then we can't grow. And if we can't grow, then we're not getting the blessings that God has, you know, put in our lives. Because we're still dwelling on the past.
I just got goosebumps. Like, if we can't, and we do block those blessings if we root into non-forgiveness of ourselves and others. If we let those people who are judging us get us down. If we don't compliment that girl on Instagram, blocking our blessings, right? We're not connecting.
We're not. I have realized that I'd rather fly with eagles. You know, I want to fly with people that I can learn from and I can grow from, and they can teach me stuff and I can teach them stuff. And
So we are going to talk about a couple fun things. So what is your favorite modeling moment?
So my favorite modeling moment would be when I was modeling Milan.
Okay.
And that was an experience that I never thought I would ever... I did a modeling competition in New York and was scouted by a Milan agent.
So you really lived that dream that happens to so few that people hear about or they read about, and they think I'm going to be discovered and travel Europe, and you really did
and
that.
He said, I'm going to fly you here to Milan. I was 19.
19 in cosmetology school. Yeah. Where were you living at the time?
In Houston.
In Houston.
Yeah.
Can you imagine? Oh, okay. I cannot even imagine. You guys imagine. Like,
I was in
Houston. 19 in Houston working. Okay. So a lot of women, might never model on a runway, but that doesn't mean that they can't carry themselves with confidence. So will you give us a couple of tips for walking into a room and carrying yourself with confidence?
Sometimes I go to events and I'm solo. I walk in with grace and confidence and poise, and I didn't let the idea of me going in there alone affect the way I walked into that room. Oh my God, because it could get scary.
Yeah.
I don't know a soul in here. I'm like alone. I'm scared.
Everybody already knows each other. Everybody's talking. I don't know anybody.
But let me tell you something. When you walk in that room like that, they will gravitate towards you. Who are you?
You will attract all your new friends. Yeah.
Yeah. I have done that so many times, and it happens. It's a real life story that I'm telling you. When you walk in that room, nobody knows you're scared unless you tell them.
Interesting. So I think that we should all try that this week, you guys.
Yes.
Go somewhere alone, walk into the room with confidence, and kind of see what happens.
It works. And that's what I teach the girls at Model Prep, how to walk in with confidence,
So if there are women who want to send their daughters to Model Prep and younger women watching, tell us the details. Where can we find you? How can they join?
Okay, so I would say check out our Instagram, Model Prep, and Facebook, Model Prep. And then we also have our website is modelprep.com.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for being here, Amber. I feel more confident even just listening to you, and I know that you guys do too. So thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me. Thank you so much.
On some level, most women have internalized the messaging that we're not good enough. It's up to us to really own our truth, see our gifts, and share them with the world. Thank you for joining us for this episode of BZen TV. We'll see you next time.